Everybody's busy all the time, so anything that can be done to help save us time is as precious as gold. What if I could quickly navigate from a SYSPRO screen like my sales order query and do a search and find any of the documents that are related to that sales order that I had up and visible on my screen? Bang, there it is. I just clicked one thing in SYSPRO and boom, there are all the documents that are related to this particular sales order that I might be looking at. Everything from drawings to invoices to orders to quotes, the list goes on and on. That would be useful. So I'm going to show you how we did that and how to create a hyperlink to make all that same kind of thing happen. Basically what you're doing is you're remote controlling the DDX Document Viewer from SYSPRO. And it's really not all that hard to do. Let's start with a little bit of documentation here that can help us understand what's going on. We have a document for you here called DDX Recipes for SYSPRO. It's on your system. It's in the Help User Guides directory. Take a look. But there are some really great examples in here that are specifically targeted at SYSPRO users and how you set this sort of thing up. I've chosen the sales order query example that's in the document, and it gives you a sample command line. It looks like this. And then it breaks that command line down into the various parameters that get used. We first run a program called DDX Viewer Launch, and that's in the bin client directory, typically on your server. And we start supplying additional commands that tell it what to do. The /f tells us which keyword we want to search in. When I go to the viewer and I want to know which is keyword 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or whatever, in this case it was 6, I can go to the advanced search window. I can open this guy up and start counting with 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's the keyword that I want to search in. So when I go back and look at this document here, it's saying search in keyword 6. Then the question is, what do I search for? And here we make use of a thing that SYSPRO does by passing data from it to other things using a parameter called %key. Now SYSPRO defines what this is, and it's different things in different circumstances, but you can use that to grab, in this case, the sales order number and bring it along and make it part of your search. Now we surround that in double quotes just in case there's any spaces in the data that is represented by %key. The next thing we do is say, okay, well, how are we going to match on this stuff? And we're doing an exact match. Just like choosing the keyword you're going to search in, I can go to my advanced find here and start counting with 0, 1, 2, 3, etc. I'm looking for it to be equal to, so 0 is the right value to put in here. Now the last thing we would do if we were doing this manually is we would put that order number in there, right? Well, that is where this search comes from. One more thing you can do is you can set the view that gets used in DDX. In my case, I chose the order clip. So if I go back to the viewer and I look here, you can see the order clip is the view that's chosen. Regardless of what might have been there before, when I execute the hyperlink, because it's got this /v in there, it resets the view, and away we go. It's really pretty simple in the end. Takes a little experimentation, a little bit of work to get the command line down the way that you want it. But once it's done, then your users only have to click that hyperlink and they're ready to go. Now there's one more foundational thing that you need to be aware of, and that is SYSPRO passes to us what it passes. So that %key contains whatever SYSPRO wants it to contain. And in the case of a sales order number, it's the sales order number as it's stored in the SYSPRO database. In more recent versions of SYSPRO, that's usually 15 characters long, and if you're dealing with a numeric sales order number, it's 0 padded with 0 to the left. So even if you have an order number that looks on your screen like my order number does here, it's order number 841, and we can see that I've been storing my documents in DDX using the same limited 6-character length that I see visually in SYSPRO. But for whatever reason, SYSPRO behind the scenes stores that with all 15 characters 0 filled. So I need to figure out a way, before I search in DDX, how do I trim off the leading stuff and just leave the remaining 6 characters? We ship with some examples that can help you here. They come in the form of batch files, and we use these kind of lowest common denominator in order to pull this off. If I go edit this thing, We can see each of the lines here with a rem in front of it. It's just a remark. It's just text. It's to say, okay, well, the sample hyperlink command line that we're going to put in here is going to run this particular batch file, and it's going to include %key on the tail end of it. So we are passing that information in from SYSPRO. Now, the actual command that gets run to launch the viewer is this one. It's the one we just saw in the SYSPRO recipes. But I can't do that straight up because I gotta pull out just the last 6 characters of what SYSPRO's passing me. So I grab the %key that SYSPRO sends in. That is this %1, and I reassign it to a variable name called orig_param. And then I use this syntax that trims everything out of that original parameter variable except the last 6 characters. If you want to know more about this, you should go to Google and do a search for substring in BAT file, B-A-T. And you'll get more information you ever want to know about how to do this kind of thing. But now once I've done that, I've set the last 6 characters into this variable name called trimmed parameter. And now I can run my normal DDX viewer launch program with the parameters we just talked about. There's the 6 for the order number keyword. Here's what we're searching for, but in this case we're using this trimmed parameter variable, so it should be only the last 6. We're matching exactly, and we're setting the order clip view. And this is what's being executed. This batch file is what's being executed in SYSPRO. So if I go back to SYSPRO and I were to right-click on the order number here, I could say, okay, great, I want to go customize hyperlinks. And it launches the SYSPRO hyperlink program, and we can see I've got a bunch of them in here already. Yeah, I believe this is the one. This is the DDX sales order search. That's the text you see on the screen when you run this thing. DDX sales order search. So the description is what the user sees. The caption is how it matches it to this sales order field. And you want to run this as an application from the workstation. There's several options here, but that's the right one. And then you can put this command line in here. This might lead, instead of to your C drive, probably to your server. It will look more like this. My server dash, then DDX is a share bin client, and it will launch this batch file space %key, and SYSPRO fills that in with whatever the appropriate thing is. Again, that changes. You can look in SYSPRO's documentation as to what types of things might wind up in there. In this case, what winds up there is the sales order number. So now that I've got this command line in here, that means it's going to run this batch file. It's going to pass in that 15-character order number. The batch file is going to trim it down so that we only see the last 6 characters, and then it's going to launch DDX and perform that search. If I didn't need to trim down to just the last 6 characters, I could just launch DDX directly or remote control it directly. So what I get, again, is this. There's the description that I mentioned. I launch it. It launches the DDX viewer. It plugs in the information I want. It plugs in the view, and it shows me the results. Pretty straight up. So there are a couple things in here that will help you along the way. One is this document that is Dash DDX recipes for SYSPRO. It contains a whole bunch of specific examples about how you remote control various things in DDX from SYSPRO using hyperlinks or triggers. And those things that can be remote controlled could be the delivery preferences, the viewer, or the publisher. There's lots of things you can do there to link DDX together with SYSPRO to make your life simpler. There is another document here that's worthwhile knowing about. It is the DDX Archive Administrator Guide. And in the Administrator Guide, especially in the appendix, there is a bunch of information in here about how you can set up this type of linking and remote control, right? Integrating with the desktop viewer, doing a programmatic launch. And it talks in detail about how you might do that and the different ways, the parameters involved, how you can do that from not just SYSPRO, but any program. You can even build it into programs if you're doing your own custom development. It does the same discussion about how to do this with the DDX publisher and so on and so forth, so you can remote control it. So all good stuff. So I would recommend you take a peek. You can simplify your life using DDX.
No paper, no scanning, no filing cabinets. Pretty simple.